But for over a decade now, Manchester has been England's musical mecca, producing bands like The Fall, Joy Division and New Order, The Smiths, and most recently the Stone Roses.
It's top people, it's top buzz, top music, top atmosphere, no hostility, unity, unity.
A lot of people in Manchester seem more into music than everywhere else because there's not really a lot else to do.
Done is like sort of created the 90s interpretation of the hippie scene, you know, a more modernist view to it, but the basic structure's still there and it does come from there, you know.
I think it's the people in here and the audience in the club that make it really. These are all pretty wild people and they don't give a damn about anything, you know, and it's just got a specific atmosphere.
Manchester is the musical capital of Britain. Some say Europe, some say the world. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to be delving into Manchester's amazing musical history and culture to find out just why music means so much to this city. Join me as we take a nostalgic trip back in time when the Manchester music scene was at its roaring peaks.
Let's bring it into sharp contrast now with what's going on up in Manchester, or what's been going on in Manchester the last few weeks. How amazing the 90s was.
The 50s belonged to rock and roll, the 60s Beatlemania, the 70s were all glam rock and punk. But is it there that the Manchester music scene truly finds its roots? It's June the 4th, 1976, and punk band the Sex Pistols have been invited to play a gig at a Leicester Free Trade Hall in Manchester by Mancunian band and fellow punk acts Buzzcocks. They played to just 42 people. Amongst the crowd sit several key members of Manchester's future music scene, including Peter Hook and Bernard Sumner of Joy Division, Morrissey, later of The Smiths, and Mark E. Smith of The Fall. Most notably though was Tony Wilson, a presenter on Granada Television with a huge interest in new music and the latest sounds. Wilson had a late night show on Granada TV called So It Goes, which showcased new bands to the public, and this meant that Manchester televised the Sex Pistols long before London did, and as a result of that, they played Manchester twice on their acclaimed Anarchy tour.
And our final live band tonight also have a warning on them. One of the most reviewed and most reviled rock phenomenon of recent weeks. We got a few votes. Sex Pistols, you can hear them warming up in the background even now.
It was these gigs more than the Free Trade Hall one which saw numerous Manchester acts take on the attitude of do-it-yourself, which defined the punk genre. After working on a research piece for Granada about local record label Rabid Records, Wilson decided to set up his own label, taking on the Industrial Revolution as it modelled. Factory Records was born. Its first release, Joy Division's Unknown Pleasures.
I mean, the interesting thing was that Unknown Pleasures was finished, start to finish, in 3 weekends. Recorded and mixed, 6 days. And it seemed like a lifetime.
As the 1980s began, beneath the wet and gloomy skies of the city, there suddenly came a new wave of sound. If you were looking for the next big thing in pop music, you'd never need to look no further than Manchester, England. Fueled by the drugs and ecstasy, a new energy arrived in Manchester, and with it, a new scene was developing around the Hacienda nightclub, also a part of Factory Records' estate. Bands such as 808 State, The Happy Mondays, The Smiths and Stone Roses helped create the biggest musical buzz in all of England. If not the world, Manchester had been born. The Manchester sound incorporated several different styles, all of them tinged with a vintage psychedelic feel. Disco basslines, wah-wah guitar and an indie jingle jangle appealed to the Hacienda audience who dressed in flared jeans, oversized tie-dye tops and bucket hats. The music going hand in hand with the fashion saw the Manchester genre labelled as baggy. The baggy sound influenced numerous Manchester bands including James and the Mock Turtles, but by the beginning of the 1990s, the sound had spread further along the country, with bands such as The Farm, EMF and Blur trying new sounds which Mancunians had already done before. The Stone Roses concert at Spike Island with Ness in May 1990 is considered by many as the Woodstock of the E-generation, whilst also signalling the end of the Manchester movement. This would be the Roses' last public appearance for 4 years, while the Happy Mondays would encounter trouble recording their next album. Demanding more time and money from Factory Records to record new songs in Barbados, the label went bankrupt in 1992.
Joy Division, New Order, which I regard as one band, and the Happy Mondays were probably my two main bands, and as an elitist I am continually privileged to have worked with those two outfits.
In the absence of two of Manchester's most iconic bands, Britpop, shoegaze and grunge captured the attention of the UK music press, and the Manchester baggy scene was all but forgotten. Although Manchester music lost much of its provincial energy, many more successful and interesting acts were still to emerge, the biggest of them all, Oasis. Noel and Liam Gallagher gave Oasis the lyrical and vocal prowess, which saw them become the biggest band in the world almost overnight. In the space of just 3 years, they went from playing to 3 people in a pub in Leeds to headlining 2 nights at the Nebworth Park, performing to over 250,000 people with 2.5 million people applying for tickets. If the Stone Roses at Spike Island signalled the end of Manchester, Nebworth signalled the end of Britpop. Oasis would return a year after these concerts with the overblown, overproduced third album, which was poorly received. Oasis disbanded in 2009 with a legacy unrivaled by any other Manchester band. But as we enter the present day, music in Manchester is more important now than ever before. Just like the Sex Pistols back in 1976, Manchester continues to attract the biggest names in music, hosting them at stadiums such as Old Trafford, the Etihad, Lancashire County Cricket Club and Manchester Arena, whilst venues such as the Apollo, the Academy, Band on the Wall, Dry Bar and various pubs and clubs across the country play host to new bands formed due to the legacy of the Manchester and Britpop era. My name's been Joseph Deegan, and thank you for watching my Manchester pop culture documentary.